Welcome to Sunday morning at the circuit, Paul Ricard, for the second of the two races of the opening round of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe, and we have a packed grid of cars on perfect conditions here. It's a warmish morning. The temperature is going to rise quite fast. It's air temperature only 20 degrees at the moment, but that will certainly go up. And let's take a look at what the track temperature is, because that's going to be the element that rises the faster. It's a light cloud above the circuit here, high above Bandol. There it is, 27 degrees track temperature. That will keep on rising. So will the air temperature, but very, very comfortable conditions, except, Ben, the humidity is already 77%, so it's going to be a workout for some of these drivers. Yeah, we were expecting rain this morning, actually, on the long-range weather forecast. It's still sitting in the Mediterranean, so it is raining out in the bay of Ceuta and Antibes and all of those famous sailing names. That is just 20 kilometers from this circuit, but in the mountains it's clear. That's why it's a bit more humid, and very different conditions to what these guys experienced in race one in the real heat of the day yesterday on Saturday. And we had a really good, clean race, didn't we? We hardly lost any cars. There was very little contact, and there was really, really good racing. Well, it absolutely was a brilliant start to the season, and we're going to head down to the grid because Gemma is alongside the Team Artline Georgia car, and she's going to catch an interview with one of its drivers.
Well, I'm down here with one of our drivers of car number 75, Shota Abkhazana. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, Shota Abkhazana is correct.
Thank you. You're here representing Kazakhstan, a very proud moment for you, and the first time I believe we've had a representation from Kazakhstan on the grid here.
Yes, we start completely new page in our history of autosport. It's the first time when we start participating so great event, and Kazakhstan for us it's very important. Thank you for your time, because you need we need small support and attention. It's very important for us because we just start develop circuit racing in our country, and I want to say hello all our autosport community in our republic, and say two words for our people, loved people in Kazakhstan. Alga, Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much, Shota. You've got a bit of work to do from row 10, but I'm sure it'll be a great race ahead.
Thank you. It's a fantastic event. It's fantastic cars and really cool races. You look at yesterday, and I hope today as well.
Thank you very much. Have a great one. Thank you, Shota.
Thank you very much. So quite a first, having drivers from Kazakhstan racing here. 31 nationalities represented on the grid, so it really is truly cosmopolitan. And Kazakhstan has got a history in motorsport, but a history in off-road motorsport mainly. Quite well known in cross-country rallies. The Silkway Rally once visited the country, which allowed me to visit the country. I wouldn't have otherwise, I don't think, ever have visited Kazakhstan, and a very welcoming place, and it's great to see those kind of countries that you wouldn't associate to traditional motorsport now making waves. Lithuania is another one that comes to mind. We're seeing more drivers getting involved in European motorsport, in conventional motorsport, and fantastic to have not just that, but we've also got Greek drivers, we've got Sri Lankan drivers in the field, an Egyptian driver, which apparently yesterday, despite nearly getting on the podium, had only done 2 kind of arrive and drive kart races pre-coming here to Paul Ricard and racing his Lamborghini. Well, remember his name, Ibrahim Badawi. But up front, we've got our traditional front runners, and Loris Spinelli is on pole position. That is he's a driver who has just won so many events, and he's running in the Pro-Am class, and he's sharing the VSR Vincenzo Sospiri racing entry with Andrei Lewandowski, and it's great to have Andrei back at the front end of the sport. But this is a field of mixed talent, because we've got the pros, we've got the AMs, we've got the Lamborghini Cup class, and the all-pro lineups as well. But for Loris Spinelli, he's been there, seen it, done it, and his job is to get the biggest lead he can get to hand over to his teammate at around the halfway point in this race. Yeah, it took him a little bit of time, didn't it, to get him up to speed after taking over from Andrei Lewandowski in the second half of yesterday's race, but they did still manage to get themselves up onto the podium. Let's go down and hear from Lewandowski with Gemma.
Andrei, all smiles already. That's because you haven't got the hard task of starting this race and keeping this lot behind you, right?
Yes, it's a lot of very famous profi drivers behind us, and that's why after the change we have keeping the position, and it will be strong, yes. But I will try, yes. I think that we finish in the first position.
There's a prediction. You're going to take this from pole to the pot top.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Take it from pole to the win.
Yes. I think that what is the important is to win the Pro-Am, but if we win or will be at the top of the overall, it will be nice.
Thank you very much. Have a great race. Keep smiling.
Andrzej Lewandowski, such a supporter of the championship, and a good point he made there. Yes, outright victory would be absolutely fabulous, but really what he wants for maximum points for his challenge is victory in the Pro-Am class. 2 of the Pro-Am qualifiers got into the top 10, one down in 8th place, so there's quite a gap between them, but the other Pro-Am car in the top 10 is Mikonek's entry, Bronek Formaniek, sharing with Karel Bass, another Polish racer, same nationality, of course, as Andrzej Lewandowski. Great looking cars. Amaury Bonduel hit the championship last year, Ben, and he's been going really well, and he'll be starting on the outside of the front row in that glorious gold looking Huracan.
And he's one of about a dozen drivers to do it all himself. We've got quite a few not sharing with another driver and therefore having to do all the work of the 2 stints. They obviously still have to come into the pits and do their mandatory pit stop, but they obviously don't change to a second driver. Bonduel is part of the pro category, and quite a few pros doing that. Let's get back down to Gemma on the grid.
Oliver, your first year in the championship here with Lamborghini. It's going pretty well. We're on the second row for this next race of the weekend.
Yeah, it looks good. I think yesterday was the first race for both me and Lagim, so we lost a bit in the pit stop. I think it's due to experience and so on. So now we're learning every race, every time we're out driving. So I think this can be a good one, so let's hope for a good one.
And you're quite relaxed here at this circuit? It's a tough one to drive for traffic, for certainly.
Yeah, it is. Like you expected it to be a good one for overtaking, but actually it is a very flowing track, so it's difficult to make a move because you can't do like the late brakings. But yeah, I mean now in the first stint with a lot of AM drivers, you can do the difference. So yeah.
And you'll take it home at the end. Thank you very much. Have a great race.
Thank you.
That was Oliver Soderstrom sharing with another young driver, Lagim Ali, one from Sweden, that's Oliver, and from Denmark, Lagim Ali. Abby Eaton is making a bid for the championship this year under the wing of Bonaldi Motorsport, who've had so much success, and the British racer really seemed to enjoy her debut yesterday. And to come into a field of 48 cars, it really is quite something.
And part of an all-pro lineup with Dan Arrow, or Arrow Dan, who had a spin at turn 1 and basically had spent the whole of his stint, the first stint, recovering from that. Did a great job. And actually, Abby found herself right in the thick of things in a very, very strong performance. Brendan Leach was on the podium yesterday, another driver to do it all himself. He was sharing last year with a couple of different drivers. Has been with Leopard a few years now, gaining experience over in Europe, living here, having moved here from COVID, basically, from New Zealand after COVID, I should say, and really enjoying his European motorsport. And again, one of those drivers kind of flying their flag to Lamborghini and saying, look at me, I'm a professional driver, you need me next year when everything slightly expands for Lamborghini, and they've got presence in the World Endurance Championship as well as everything else that they're already doing, including GT3s, which of course will be also participating in that championship as well as this championship. So you kind of need a big fleet of drivers.
You certainly do. It's going to be a big step up. GT3 becoming the GT class for the Le Mans 24 Hours. The World Endurance Championship will be very exciting indeed. But let's focus now on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We've got 50 minutes of racing ahead of us. They'll follow around behind the Lamborghini Urus before that sets off around the circuit, and they get a last chance to sight the track. But you talked about rain possibly coming in. They will have also been looking at the weather charts overnight. It's dry at the moment, and it's looking all good indeed for these cars. And of course the drivers who started yesterday will do the second stint today, and the length of those stints depends on when they fit in their driver's slots according to the opening of the pit window. But we are all set here at the Paul Ricard circuit for Lambo race number 2.
Green flag at the back of the field. One proper full lap of this Paul Ricard circuit for the drivers to feel what's underneath them in terms of their car, their brakes. We've got a yellow flag in the middle of the pack. Is there a staller on this formation lap? That yellow flag has now been withdrawn, so whoever was the staller got themselves quickly on the start button again and got themselves going again. It was incredibly, considering how many Lamborghinis, how many of the same cars there are, the Evo 2 version of the Super Trofeo in this grid. It was an incredibly clean race yesterday, and they did a very, very good job. As we mentioned yesterday, this is the Evo 2 version, which was released at the start of last year, so they've got good experience in this car.
Well, running down the grid, Loris Spinelli on pole, Amaury Bonduelle on the outside. So spread of nationalities already then. Hugo de Wilde, 19-year-old Largim Ali will start alongside in 4th place. So the young guns in this championship as well. Thomas Laurent rebuilding his race career, the French racer, alongside German racer Sebastian Balthazar. That is row number 3 of the, 24 rows. Brendan Leach, we mentioned him, he's running in the Pro Cup. And Carol Bass, who's had some great results, almost always in the Pro-Am class, but he's very much the pro in that mix. Stefan Tribudini sharing with Pedro Ibrahim. That's the Brazilian racer in 10th position. Then Abby Eaton, we saw her number 33 Rebellio racing car, alongside Janello, an Italian racer, in the 12th position on this packed grid. We're a quarter of the way down. Arcadia Racing, Malouin and Alex Au from Hong Kong line up on row number 7. Row 8 is Gabriel Rindon, who had such an unfortunate run in the AM Club yesterday when he retired with moments to go, alongside Schönewert, who's sharing with Biermann. Yeah, Biermann. Biermann will get that up the order. Young Anglo-Japanese racer Dougie Bolger, and alongside Michael Blanchemin. That is row number 9. Not even at the halfway point on this incredibly long grid. Then Igor Oretsev will be sharing with Shota Abkazava. We heard from him on the grid. And the two Vandenbergs will share the car starting 20th position. Gilles Stadsbatter, yesterday's race winner, starts down in 21st with Yuri Wagner alongside him. Then Mainetti and Emanuele Colombini, pretty much middle of the grid there, row 12. Jean-François Bruno and Renaud Coupens, who took victory in the AM class yesterday. Then on second of the Lewandowski, that's Adrian, that's the son, and Ibrahim Badawi, he's the Egyptian racer we talked about earlier. Then Mikos and Anapoli share row number 15 as we work down these cars largely in the Pro-Am and AM clubs. Antonius Vossos, the Greek racer, and Patera alongside representing Italy. Then Ugo Conde and Mark Rostan for Iron Lynx, that's down 33rd and 34th. Jürgen Krebs, Holger Harmsen, 35th and 36th. Elie Dubelli and Martin Rubu, who had a race but unfortunately had a little spin in it. Then Gerhard van der Horst, Petra Matic, and now we're getting down to the tail of the grid. Nigel Bailly and Luciano Privitello in 41st and 42nd positions. Hernandez Ortega and Kurt Wagner, 43rd and 44th. Then Doms and Keats, Jason Keats from Canada, 45th and 46th, and completing the grid, Kumar Prabhakaran and Michael Fishbaum. Expect Fishbaum to come forward, that's out of position for him. We always have cars that are out of sequence, little mistakes in qualifying, and they provide a story in their own right.
Yeah, we've got the onboard camera on that car, and we've got Milos Pavlovic getting aboard that car in the second stint, so that's going to be incredible to watch. There it is, the number 3 machine on Mondial Motorsports, champions last year, running the 33 as well as the 3. And this huge grid of stunning Lamborghinis make their way through Village on the last couple of corners of this Paul Ricard layout. The over 180-degree hairpin at the end of the lap, which always seems to be a 90-degree corner, but actually is quite a lot tighter than that over the bridge that enters the circuit, the pont, and we're about to go racing for 50 minutes, including a pit stop. Race 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo at Paul Ricard.
Waiting for those lights to go green. The last car's still filtering through the final corner, but a brilliant start from pole position by Loris Spinelli, and one of the Iron Lynx cars really making a charge up the inside. I think it's Hugo de Wilde, the yellow car, number 10. Looks like it's going to slot into second place. This is the view from way back down the order. How close would you like it to be? Well, that's very close indeed into turn 1. Might have been a touch. Frequently we get cars running out over the blue stripy lines, and here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are doing it, but they're coming back on. It's often been how they rejoin that really proves if it's going to be a problem or not.
An incredible start there from the white machine, and actually not a very strong start from Bonduelle from the front row of the grid. Just didn't get moving, and he's now being bullied off the circuit by one of the Oregon cars.
Yeah, Bonduelle was third going into turn 2, and unfortunately for him, as he got down to turn 3, 4 and 5, he's been shuffled back to maybe 4th position there, but no flies on Spinelli. He's escaping. Hugo de Wilde is giving chase.
I think that's Balthazar in the 61 Oregon machine that's up in 3rd position from row 3 or 4 on the grid. That's been in a very, very strong start. The 55 is under investigation for their start, out of position perhaps.
That's the GT3 Poland car. We'll come to that later. But right now, Loris Spinelli starting to stretch his legs, and everyone in behind is trying to remember they're fighting for class position as everything else. But of course, everyone wants the outright victory. That's what happens on the first lap of the race. Field really, really bunching as it goes through the chicane, halfway up the back straight there. So trying to keep it neat and tidy. Up through scene for the first time. Well, one driver in about 5th place on the outside of the marker cones. On the outside, they're not cones, they're very, very hard indeed. You do not want to hit them, but I suppose it was a wise choice. Am I going to hit them or am I going to go wide? I'll go wide just to avoid that. But a real shuffling of the pack on the start of the race, with the exception of the pole starter, Loris Spinelli, started first, is first, but being chased very hard indeed by Ugo de Wilde at the moment. But it will now settle down, I feel.
Yeah, Spinelli was kind of helped, I think, by Bonduelle not getting a good start, and kind of he backed up everybody else and really made the rest of the top 6 or 7 really think about where they placed their car. Bonduelle 4th position in that queue, in that gold machine, behind the Oregon multicolored machine of Balthazar, who had that great second stint yesterday to bring himself right up to the sharp end and eventually taking the victory overall. And now just get a feel and get the temperature of the brakes and the tyres. Make sure the car is working how you want it to work. It won't have been feeling good on that first lap. You won't have got it to full operating temperature, and that's what makes the first couple of laps so tricky in any form of racing, that you're having to battle so close quarters with everybody else in a car that isn't quite ready yet to do so.
Yeah, exactly. So that moment where you just want to push a little harder, want to make a space and can just get it wrong. And that's where the pros really come into their own. A lot of the pros are now starting today's race if they didn't start yesterday's. But we've still got the mixtures. The teams cycle them round. They decide how they want to work these two races. And they would have known that this race would start with cooler track temperatures, kind of conditions for these cars than yesterday that was at a different, later time in the day. But here on Sunday morning at Circuit Paul Ricard, at the end of the opening lap, 0.8 of a second to the good. That's the race leader, Loris Spinelli, over Ugo de Wilde. And even as they get down to the chicane, halfway up the Mistral straight, halfway around the lap effectively, that gap is going out. Loris Spinelli is stretching his legs, and his teammate at Vincenzo Sospiri Racing would be very, very happy indeed. We heard from him on the grid. Andre Lewandowski now riding aboard car number 92. This is the car that Jim Pla shares with Michael Blanchemin, and it's trying to make progress actually middle order there, 18th out of the 48 runners.
Both racing in the GT4 European Championship last year and moving across as a driver pairing. They weren't together last year, but this year sharing this 92 machine. He's kind of soaring at the wheel, trying to generate a bit more temperature and not quite feeling the car completely underneath him through Senior and Beausset, the double right-hander. Where are we riding? We're in the 18th position for Michael Blanchemin, behind Wagner and Alex Al. We saw quite sharp at the head of the field yesterday. And Al for the moment down in 16th position, the first of these 3 cars.
Yeah, Alex Au is sharing this weekend with the Danish racer Fredrik Schandorf, so expect that to go even better in the second half of the race. But I must say, we talked about yesterday's race being clean and tidy, and I must say, really hats off to all these drivers. To fit 24 cars around the first few corners is impressive. Double that number to 48. I shouldn't have spoken. Commentators curse. We have a spinner on the exit of turn 2. It's Dougie Bolger, the young Japanese-based driver, and he's got to wait to rejoin and wait for about another 30 cars to come through. In fact, he was in 13th place. He's got to wait for 35 cars to come through before he can rejoin this 48-car field. What an unfortunate moment for young Bolger.
There's actually enough space if you could really spin it around to rejoin offline rather than bring the car straight back onto the racing line. It does require a decent boot of throttle, and he has managed to do that, but he has waited a long, long time. He's
effectively stone last. I think that was the last of the 48 runners coming past him. So 13th at the end of the second lap. Unfortunately, he's gone around, and he was very close. He had Abby Eaton in front of him and Igor Oritsev just in behind in the Artline Team Georgia car. But it's very easy to get the car unweighted. Maybe there was a tap, maybe there wasn't, but round he went. The good news, no damage, and everyone else got past him. Meanwhile, however, at the front of the race, Loris Spinelli doubled his advantage, 1.5 seconds clear at the end of the second lap, and Sebastian Balthazar dropping back off the tail of Ugo de Wilde. The front 3 opening out from each other, which is good news for each of them in some ways, because there's not too much pressure, but they don't want to let Loris Spinelli get too far away. Don't forget, he's not running in the Pro class, he's running in the Pro-Am, so he's going to hand over to an Am driver driver later in the race. So Loris Spinelli has to do one thing, and that is get as far clear as he possibly can, build the cushion that Andrei Lewandowski can have in his pocket, and then see what he can do with it.
Half a minute loss for Bolger with that spin and stationary moment. So huge amount of work now to do to get himself back through the pack. It's going to be certainly an interesting next half an hour for him. And the floppies over at Senior already destroyed. There was a very bold move from the 78 of Colombani. I think that's past Blanchemain, past our onboard car. And Michel now fights back over the main straight, side by side for 17th position.
Yeah, very impressive manoeuvre. That was a case of, I'm not asking twice, I'm just going for it. You're committed at that point, and actually very good job from Michael Blanchemain to keep out of the way. And unfortunately now he gets the next corner and he's been pitched around. That's truly shocking, the speed of the cars going past Paul Michael. He'd lost the position to that great move. Past him by Colombini, and there, I don't know what happened into turn one, but he was very fortunate he wasn't collected by others. And don't forget, this guy had a spin yesterday as well, and then worked his way back up the order.
As we cut to that shot at turn one, it looked as though he was had a little bit of contact, either with the car on the inside of him, or he'd caught the curb, and the car kind of bobbled, and it just then was not settled for when he turned into the actual turn.
Yeah, well, let's take a look. Coming down past the pits, the guy you want to look at is the one with the white stripe. Well, that was a look like hip and shoulder manoeuvre. Pushed him a little bit wide, and then was he... Well, at that point, it wasn't any further contact. I thought we might have had some further contact. Round it went, so he could be described as a soft spin, but he sat there, had to wait for the field to go past. So really very unfortunate for Michael Blanchemain, and it does make the mountain rather harder to climb for his teammate Jim Pla, but Jim has climbed many mountains in his career. Always seems to be running in the Pro-Am class and having to weave his magic to get the Pro-Am combination up the field.
Just a reminder that track limits are in force as we sat on that shot for a while. I think everybody was off the circuit. Race control very strong yesterday with all of our classes about white lines being the track limits, and if you go four wheels off then you get a warning. Too many warnings and you will get a penalty, although we didn't really see too many penalties actually handed out by the end of it.
No, you shouldn't, because on the basis it's a 50-minute race, and if you've transgressed to the extent you've had 5 track limit warnings, the black and white flag comes out, and then the next one. If you can squeeze 6 into 50 minutes, you really are expecting a miracle on the Sabbath.
I could do about 6 in one lap.
But of course you could, but that's why we're in a commentary box, Ben.
Yes, absolutely. This is the battle for 20th and 21st position. Van den Berg and Schondeverd. We saw Schondeverd and teammate at the head of the field yesterday. Jelmer Berman getting aboard that car for the second stint. Expect that to have a very exciting second half of the race.
Yeah, many of these cars, you get used to where they are in the pack, and then it swaps over. The Pro gets on board and goes flying. Gilles Stadsbader, who's just ahead, not 3 positions ahead of Schönevert, he was yesterday's race winner. So it shows how their Pro teammates are going to have to really get a move on. And he's sharing with Matteo Michelotto, Italian racer. So you can't just presume this is going to be the finishing order. When the driver swap comes in this 50-minute race, we're nearly 10 minutes into the 50. And out front, Loris Spinelli leading Ugo de Wilde by 1.7 seconds, a similar gap, no, double that gap back to Sebastian Balthazar in third. But wherever you look, there is a battle, not just for position, but for class position as well. The Pro-Am leader is the race leader. That's not too complicated. The Pro leader is Ugo de Wilde in second place. Then working down through the classes, there's a real mix further down the pack. Yeah, we've just seen the number 2 machine of Renault Coupens, who was trying to get past Yuri Wagner. I think he completed that move. Coupens is the leading car in his class. Wagner, I think, starting a lot higher than perhaps that car was able to do so. Hugo Conde is off the circuit in the number 7 machine. Hugo coming from GT4 Europe as well. And another who's having to sit and watch the whole pack come past before he can get back onto the circuit. This is where a 48-car field's like a 148-car field, and more cars running very, very wide at scene and eventually rejoining that. So one Oregon car overtaking another, but the one that took a stumble was car 44. That was Pedro Ibrahim. He looks like he might have a puncture. He's coming in rather slowly. So he was in 9th position at the start of that lap, but sadly rather lower this time around. Now, Loris Spinelli is suddenly being closed in big time by Ugo de Wilde. Safety car. He's probably seen that sign and backed it off. That'll be why. That will be why, because I don't think the gap was going to come down. It was going to go up, but it's 0.48 of a second, just under half a second between the race leader, Loris Spinelli, Ugo de Wilde in third, Sebastian Balthazar now 2.4 seconds further back. Top three, therefore, covered by 3 seconds. So let's hope this is a short clear-up operation with the safety car on track. There it is, picking up the race leader as he comes out of turn 2 and starts driving on down the gentle slope to Virage de l'Hôtel, and then on down to Virage du Camp, and the lowest point on the circuit, Virage de la Sainte-Baume, before the cars get turned around and start heading towards the wonderful Mistral Straight. And of course, in this race for the Super Trofeo, we have a chicane inserted halfway up, which makes the track length longer, and it does mean the drivers aren't on full throttle forever and a day, which is what the Mistral Straight was always famous for.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it, that all the support races choose to have that chicane, and it's only the GT3 race, the 6 hours that we had last night. Fantastic race. If you haven't watched it, make sure you fill your Sunday with that one. Only them using the full Mistral Straight. I'm not sure there's too many other championships that come here and actually do the full length. Even Formula One didn't.
No, exactly. But I think there's a certain majesty, and some of the slipstreaming battles were absolutely fabulous last night, particularly as the lights started to fade. Wonderful, wonderful scenes here at Circuit Paul Ricard. But today, in the increasing warmth of the morning, the track temperature has actually gone down a little bit. I tell you what, the cloud base is starting to blow in a little bit from the mountains behind our commentary position. We're looking over the start-finish straight.
44 into the pits. That was Pedro Ibrahim. We think that Pedro had a puncture, although he's actually come back out onto circuit. So we've got 1 minute and 5 seconds in the pits. So that seems to be just a pit stop tyre change, and he's actually, well, we'll wait to see where he comes out on circuit. It's going to be at the back of the field around 45th position, because obviously everyone else is bunched up. The 55 of Marius Mikos is the only other car to have pitted. And is that Ibrahim? Pedro Ibrahim's come out onto circuit and instantly pulled the car off. So it was not a tyre necessarily. Maybe the team had a look round the car and went, yeah, no, everything's fine, off you go. And he came back out, and whatever felt wrong continues to feel wrong. So we've lost Hugo Conde. The 7 machine was parked up actually there. That's now been recovered. We were about to go back to racing, but unfortunately, to recover Pedro Ibrahim's car, we are now adding an extra safety car lap. And I think that's almost more cars we've lost already than we lost yesterday in total. Although Mikos is now back out onto circuit. The 55 car, having visited the pits, is now at the tail of our field. And of course, for those teams in the Pro-Ams that have put their AMs in first, this is an advantage versus their competitors. So Loris Spinelli, the pro in that car, trying to build a big gap over his Pro-Am rivals. Karel Bash as well in the 66 car is the pro in that car. Those that have got AMs in further down, we look at Schwandevoort, for instance, now that gap is a lot smaller, and we go back to racing. They'll try and get their pro drivers in as soon as possible. And if we don't have another safety car, then they have a bigger advantage than the likes of the pros that are in right now.
And with a field as big as this, you always have to take these matters into consideration. But I must say, the spins have been very soft ones. It's been fine. There hasn't been any damage, but it's about moving cars from those positions of potential danger. So Loris Spinelli, of course, still leading the race. He wasn't going to lose that behind the safety car. His advantage has been cut by 2/3 from 1.7 seconds to just half a second over Ugo de Wilde, the young Belgian tucked in behind the German Sebastian Balthazar. And Karel Bash just does what he has done so many times. Car number 66 running in 4th place for Mikonek, and look for him to try and find an advantage that he can gain for position. He is the 2nd car in Pro-Am, the 4th car overall. Amaury Bonduel, that poor start's knocked him from 2nd down to 5th. Brendan Leach having another good run. He's in 6th place. And it's great to have new faces in the championship. Ali Largim for Denmark running in 9th, and Thomas Laurent down in 8th position, having started marginally higher than that, but good to have him back. He's one of the drivers running solo.
And he was one of the drivers that actually didn't get a very good start. Lost a couple of positions on the first lap and has been making his way back up since that point, and getting more and more familiar. It's interesting to see how many pro drivers have decided to just do it alone rather than share with another pro driver. They really want to show that they are influencing the car and nobody else.
me, but it's not. It's also drivers have careers to consider
That's
if
it.
they feel that's the best way of achieving it. And as you pointed out before the start of the race, Lamborghini going places in motor racing.
Are we going safety car back to green flag this, or we've still got to move that other car? Ibrahim must be off the circuit, I would have thought. You are going to go racing. Safety car lights are out. Safety car's heading towards pit lane. And it's very, very compact, isn't it, as we're going to go back to racing. Spinelli's been slow through that penultimate corner and now accelerating down the main straight with Ugo de Wilde in the yellow Lamborghini just behind him. Then a small gap to Balthazar in the Oregon machine, and actually he's under pressure from Karel Bash, and Bash is right under the rear wing of Balthazar for third position. Wilde looks to the inside, can't find a way through. Bash is going to try and go around the outside for third position. Has it worked? Yes, it has. Great restart from Karel Bash, past Balthazar and up into third position. Bonduel, then Leach, then Largin, Laurent, and the rest of the 46 cars that still are on circuit. Oh, and an attack back from Balthazar. He's gone straight back into third position, and that's really what you want to do when you get past. You need to counter attack as soon as possible, especially in a place like that where you're not really expecting it. 3 wide at the bottom end of the circuit. It doesn't really work down there. It is wide, but that's going to be damage, I think, to the 99.
Well, that's most unfortunate. You've got to try the Yuri Wagner. Maybe he just actually got a little bit wide, got dirt on his tyres there, but there was side-to-side contact. You immediately worry if one slows, they might have got a puncture, but doesn't seem as yet that's the case. But Ugo de Wilde keeping Loris Spinelli very honest indeed. Great fight back by Sebastian Balthazar. Of course, Karel Bass was going to attack. I knew he was. He briefly got up into third place, but back to fourth he goes. Now, trying to get what you get of a slipstream is going to be up into scene. A look for the Oregon car. That's Ugo de Wilde in second place, running a really good run for him. And in behind, running very wide at scene, go both Balthazar and Bass, and behind them Omri Bonduel not too far behind. All the Bs gathered together.
And again, it's side by side. Balthazar and Bash really bashing each other on this opening lap of this second part of the race. Bash really feeling as though he needs to make a big effort now for his AM driver to jump into that car, and cannot be held back by Sebastian Balthazar, especially as Bonduel also wants to try and counter and take advantage of that. Behind them, it looks as though Leach has got past. Yes, he has. But Larkin was crawling all over the back of Leach. And then Thomas Laurent. So we're going to come over to complete lap 8. Spinelli, De Wilde, Bath, Balthazar, Bonduel, Leach, Largim, Laurent, and Tribuni are your top 9. And it is as it was after the safety car, but there's been plenty of action in that top 9 since. Plenty of changes further back. Colombini and Coupens up to 14th and 15th as Alex Owls lost a couple more positions. The other one that's losing positions, as we saw, Yuri Wagner. I wonder how much damage that 99 car has after that little bit of contact here 1 lap ago. Right. 30 minutes coming onto the clock in just a few moments' time, so we're going to have that pit window open. That's going to mix things up again. We expect the pro drivers in the Pro-Am category to stay out. Those that are pros, they can do it at any time, really.
And what you always wonder at this stage, if a driver pre-race plans can go out the window. If a driver's having a really good scrap or sees for once he's got a bit of clear track ahead of him, they want to maximise that time. They won't come in according to the initial plan. The pit window will open very soon indeed. Loris Spinelli, well, he's going to stay out as long as he possibly can in the lead of the race. But Ugo de Wilde, he's fallen back to 1.2 seconds, and there we're having some great scrapping into that chicane halfway up the straight. But the first two with clear air between them, and then such good recovery there. In third place now we've got Karel Bass, Elmarie Bonduel, and there have been slips, there have been slides, and looks though we've just fleetingly lost Sebastian Balthazar from that group. Car 75, there it is, Igor Oretsev. It's the team with the 2 drivers from Team Kazakhstan. We heard from Shota Abkhazova, now Igor Oretsev pressing on and making very good progress. I think he might just be in the top 10 when he comes around at the end of this lap. So he will stay out for as long as he can because he's having a good run, giving the Kazakhstani crew a really good puff in this race and really establishing them in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So expect Oretsev to stay in a little more. A few cars in the background diving in, but there is Oretsev's car. Great to see his career back on track, and he's going to push on very hard indeed. Bit of tyre debris on the outside of the circuit, but I think Orange should go up into 10th position at the end of that lap, just waiting for the timing screen up to 9th position. That's been a big climb for the Kazakhstan duo, and Shotaib Kazar will be watching with great pride, but also excitement in the pit lane, because he knows that his turn is coming very soon indeed. In this, the second of the two races, the opening round of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
So many drivers taking advantage to get into the pits as soon as they possibly can. Almost the second half of the field jumping at the opportunity to get their second drivers in. The top 10 basically all staying out. So Sebastian Balthazar, the first of our drivers in that leading battle to swap out. And we will be seeing in that car for the second half of the race Maurizio Moretti, who was in the top 5 in his stint in the first part of yesterday's encounter. And actually Balthazar was the one that did the kind of the finalizing of their performance yesterday. But today they're feeling as though they need to get Balthazar out as quickly as possible. Abby Eaton also in, Martin Rieber also in. The car just at the front of our shot, the 92, is Michel Blanchemain, our onboard camera car. As we've got a car off the circuit, and that is the 62. Is that just trying to get out of the way?
No, I'm just doing it now.
Oh no, it's Badaway, who doesn't have a teammate to swap with, so that's a mistake in 15th position for the Egyptian driver, and he's going to lose a couple of spots there. Can't believe that he's only done a couple of arrive and drive karting events before jumping in and coming straight into Super Trofeo, and also being pretty performant. He's driven very well yesterday, got himself on the podium, and at the moment he is on the podium, or would have been if at the end of last lap. He would have been third after Ridone had a late race retirement from the lead, if you remember, and that put Badaway on the podium. Here is the number 2 machine. That is the leader in that class. Rafael Coupens for Boots and VDS. Now, with all these pit stops, he must be up in the top 10. Yes, he is in 10th position as Brendan Leach brings the Leopard machine in, and it's going to bring a lot of these cars back out into traffic, these early pit stops, because the field is so compressed.
Now, pit stops always seem agonisingly slow. A few teams are just looking at their adjusting tyre pressures as well, because the track conditions are changing all the time. The track temperature is now starting to rise again. The early cloud is disappearing. It was only thin cloud anyhow, but for the drivers on track, still trying to find those who've come out. Again, you can see famously the front end of the car washing away as drivers are trying to just find the grip after they've taken on. But the order keeps on changing, and it's still Loris Spinelli, 3.8, nearly 4 seconds to go. There he is, car number 16, pulling clear for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. A good run for the Italian, well, veteran in Super Trofeo terms, but he has chalked up so many wins in this, and he's doing exactly what you'd expect of him. Real excellence.
Obviously had clear track after the safety car period, but with the back of the field pitting, he is finding himself with traffic around him, not compromising him too much by the looks of things right now. Lap times are still pretty good. In fact, the last lap he did was the best lap of the race, a 2:03.842. But there are cars ahead of him. We saw the number 40 machine of Will Casabon right in the thick of our top 10 battle. He's actually a lap down from that because of his pit stop and tried desperately to get out the way. That's the car he shares and has just been handed over to by Nigel Bay. And Nigel Bay is our disabled driver. They have a fantastic system of getting the driver out of that car and allowing Will Casabon to get into the car, and also not necessarily. Will has a steering wheel that is a conventional steering wheel, and of course Nigel has the hand controls on the steering wheel. So the whole system has to be changed for him, but the pedals obviously remain where they are.
So how long will the front runners go? Now looking at a good scrap. Car 65 pressing hard. That's the Leipzig car. Jürgen Krebs, one of the solo drivers. He's in the Lamborghini Cup class.
Yeah, and he's being lapped there by Ugo de Wilde. So de Wilde has got caught traffic, as has Karel Bash. So Spinelli has been lucky here that he hasn't had the back markers that the guys behind him have. And look, already Karel Bash has been 3 or 4 corners now behind that car, not being able to get past, such as the sinuous nature of the first part of the lap here. Now on the straight, no blue flags telling you have to get out the way. Bash has to work at this one, and he's done so, but he's lost a good second and a half over Hugo de Wilde ahead of him.
Yeah, and just looking at the orders changing with those pit stops being made, the likes of Bonduelle coming in, Thomas Laurent coming in, and unfortunately for car 18, that's going nowhere fast at the moment. Elie Dubelli and Karim Ojay, that's their car from Boutsen VDS, and that is limping in Elie Dubelli at the wheel at the moment. So I think it might be over and out for them. But the order at the top, for those who haven't made a pit stop, is Loris Spinelli, Hugo de Wilde, Karel Bass. Car number 13 is now up into 4th place. That's Edgar Malois, and up to 5th place, Igor Oritsev in the Artline team racer, the driver from Kazakhstan.
Bonduelle now brings his car into the pits. No driver change for him. He'll sit for a little bit longer, actually, than the allowed pit stop time. Most of these pit stops are a 1:38. But because Bonduelle is a single driver, he gets an extra penalty. So his pit stop is a 1:43.6 before he goes back out onto circuit again. And the same applies to the likes of Brendan Leach and Thomas Laurent, who don't have a second driver. They have a longer pit stop.
But it does mean when they go back onto the circuit, they'll have lost time, but they will be fully conversant with the conditions as they were not too many minutes before, and that can be worth its weight in gold. However, that's when the conditions are changing fast. They seem fairly stable now. Any threat of rain, I think, has been removed now, so it's not such an advantage as it could be if you were going from wet to dry, dry to wet. And but anyhow, for the real pros out there, and even for the AMs and the drivers in the Lamborghini Cup class, it's about the feel they get from their car as soon as they leave the pit after a pit stop. Tyre temperatures would have dropped a bit, brake temperatures would have risen as they were sitting at a standstill. So it really is a question of just having that developed skill that you've picked up as you become a racer.
So the last lap for Loris Spinelli, a 2:06 versus what he managed the one lap before, a 2:03. That is how much the traffic is affecting our leading drivers. So Spinelli has had to get through a bit of traffic. He's got more traffic to contend with here. And so that is where suddenly choosing when you pit is so important, because if somebody else has pitted early and split the strategy, they've got on a completely different part of the circuit and could find themselves with clear track and able to circulate in the 2:04s. So if we look further down the field, we've got Zonzini and Michelotto, Schandorf, all in the 2:04s. They're all at the same speed on a different part of the circuit, and the leading guys are doing 2:06s. Yellow flag out at the first sector.
All but 9 of the cars have made their pit stops. The top 6, which is Spinelli, De Wilde, Bass, Malois, Oritsev and Janiello, have not stopped, and the drivers, the spinner early on, Dougie Bolger, hasn't come in as yet either, nor has Holger Harmsen or Jean-François Bruno. Everyone else has come in for a stop, but the positions are going to change in. I'm just seeing a car, I think, diving in there. Was that Loris Spinelli making a move to go in the pits? It's just definitely a car from Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, and I would think he hasn't got enough time to go around one more time. That should be Spinelli. Check for number 16 on the flank of that car. Yes, it is. So just on the last lap in which he could have come in before the pit window closes, in comes Spinelli, and he'll be handing over to Andrei Lewandowski.
De Wilde follows him in. There is Karel Bash, and absolutely everybody else that hasn't pitted now needs to make their stop, or they will get a penalty for missing this pit window. Who is stationary, or maybe it's just a floppy that's in the middle of the track in sector 1, but we do still have that yellow flag out there.
So last of the front runners coming in, those top 6, as we mentioned, didn't make their pit stop until the final moment in which they could have done so. So we're having the changes for all the top 6. Car we can see right up the front is Shota Abkurzava now getting on board. We heard from him on the grid. Let's see how he can get in. But that was a great stint from Igor Oritsev. Rose up through the order from outside the top 10. And that certainly is challenging. But Loris Spinelli and Andrei Lewandowski are going to be a hard combination to beat. We've got more than 20 minutes remaining in this race, however. And now Lewandowski works his way down, still below the pit speed limit, to get to the exit. This is the bit that always seems to take for absolute ever. But it came in. It's a long pit lane. Wait for it, wait for it. Yes, carry on waiting for it. And only when you go over the white line, marking the pit exit, can the throttle be opened. And the car that was giving chase continues to give chase. The Iron Lynx, the yellow car, now in the hands of Rodrigo Testa.
On board with Milos Pavlovic. Where is that car? That's the one that started at the very tail of the field. according to the timing screens right now, 37th position, but it's still got a lot of shaking out to do, the timing screens, to actually really reflect exactly what position everybody's in. But expect this onboard to be very, very entertaining for the next 20 minutes, because Pavlovic is a fast peddler and he's got some 30-odd cars in front of him.
Yeah, certainly it's 20 minutes remain in the race. The pit window is now closed. Within the next moment or so, the screen should readjust as everybody has served their pit stop now. But expect 16 to be back in the lead of the race shortly. But there were a few laps in which Loris Spinelli got a little bit blocked and had slower lap times. You picked those out about 2 laps before the race leader came in. He's still in front of the car that was giving chase, the Iron Lynx car, and unfortunately we've got a puncture. It's not our race leader, is it? No, it's car number 60. That's really unfortunate for the driver of that one, Giovanni Anapoli, sharing with Pier Giacomo Randazzo, and it's Randazzo who pulls the side of the track. So a little bit of debris or something has caught that, and that looks like it's just as they go up onto the Mistral Straight. So if it's going to go, it's better it goes before you get up to full speed as you go up the hill.
Yeah, I wonder how much debris is on the circuit from that shedding tyre. As we heard last night, most of the curves are quite flat here, but there are a couple of real beastly curves. If you catch them at the wrong angle, then they can do all kinds of damage. One of them is that one right down at this part of the circuit on that right-hand side. You're at slow speed. We're just waiting for the timing screens to catch up with all those pit stops. Now everybody's done them.
And for anybody coming out in traffic, it's always a risk, the timing of your pit stop. Are you going to reappear with a whole gaggle of cars? If you're making your pit stop on the last lap, it's sort of slightly less likely, the last lap of the pit window, but it's when you come mid-order, you don't know who's going to be where and when. But it looks as though car 16 should be retaining the lead now. Andrei Lewandowski listed as 6th, but any second now, who crossed the finish line to complete 14 laps and should go back to the top of the charts. So he does. The yellow car in the background ought to be in second. Yes, Hugo de Vilder's car now should be in the hands of teammate Rodrigo Testa, waiting for the timing screen. Yes, now Rodrigo Testa's name does appear. The gap between first and second, 4 seconds. So a good advantage for Andrei Lewandowski, but Testa is a pro taking on after a pro driver, whereas Andrei Lewandowski is an AM. So in terms of his pace, there should be a bit of a difference between them. So it's a case of hanging on now for Lewandowski.
And Testa has a car in his mirrors, so it won't necessarily be focused forwards to try and close that gap, because Moretti is right on his tail, the car that he's taken over from Sebastian Balthazar. Then there's a gap of 7 seconds down to the number 9 machine, which was Ali Largan. So they've made up some time actually over the pit stop sequence, up to 4th position, ahead of Bonduel, ahead of Leach, and also another car that's made up good time is the Aaron Dan 33 car, up to 7th position now. That was the car that Abby Eaton was in, about 12th or 13th spot. So who else has lost time then? Which other cars have lost a bit of progress in the pits?
The ones that have lost time are the ones with the solo drivers, as we talked about earlier. Thomas Laurent outside the top 10 in 11th place. Look for that French charger to make his move. His next target is Matteo Michelotto, but Michelotto is certainly not slow in the car, because he was shared the winning car yesterday with Gilles Stadsbetter, and of course Gilles was outside the top 20. The car's been handed over to teammate Michelotto. Expect that car to come up the order. Maybe they'll work up in tandem. They've first got to pass Loris Cabarrus. It's one target after another. They're just at the tail of the top 10.
Bear in mind that Lewandowski also is a Pro-Am entry rather than the all-pros of the next 6 runners. So whilst he's got that 4-second lead, you would expect it to disappear. And as he said to Gemma on the grid, it'll be great to win the race overall. That's the ambition, but ultimately it's the focus has to be their category, and in their category they have a very decent margin over the 66 car, which was Carol Bash and is now Bronek Formignac. And look at all that rubber down there at turn 1. So whoever lost their tyre, if that's the same bit of tyre, that is very early on in the lap for it to have disintegrated.
Right, let's enjoy this battle for 4th place, and Omri Bonduel giving chase. He'll still be thinking, why did I make such a truly dreadful start to the race from the outside of the front row from 2nd on the grid? However, the French driver is pushing very hard. Another driver we heard from on the grid, Oliver Söderström, the Swedish driver who took over from Ali Largim. And their target is to catch those ahead. But unfortunately, this 4th and 5th place battle is about 7 seconds down on Moretti, who's holding 3rd, pressing Rodrigo Testa for 2nd. But out front by 1.8 seconds at the moment, Andrei Lewandowski. But it's coming down, 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 because suddenly Lewandowski, look there in the screen as they go through the chicane halfway up the Mistral Straight. He's got 2nd and 3rd right with him. They've really taken huge chunks out of him in the first quarter of the lap alone. The twisty bits as you go down through Virage du Camp and Virage de la Saint-Baume, but coming up the Mistral Straight to Scene, up the rise and turning in, number 16 still leading for VSR. However, it's a question of hanging on. Look at the time taken off him by Rodrigo Testa, 2.2 seconds last time around, and the time before 1.4.
And Testa needs to do this quickly because he's got Moretti breathing down his neck, and he can't afford to spend too much time behind Lewandowski and plan his move. He just needs to be decisive with it. Where can he do it? He needs to also look at the body language of the car in front. Where is he braking earlier? What is he doing that is making him so much slower? And how does that allow me to take advantage? Is he early on the brakes into this final turn? Therefore, can I dive down the inside? He's kind of thinking about it, can't do it. It's also going to compromise his pace down this main straight, and it's going to allow Moretti to have a go at 2nd position because Moretti was on the racing line, the line of least resistance on the line with most momentum. But it's not quite the big enough braking zone into turn 1 to get it done, and they stay as is for the moment. But Testa has spent half a lap now and a little bit of a wiggle into turn 1 behind Lewandowski.
Yeah. Testa, the youngest driver in this race, just 17 years old. It doesn't show. He's not showing impetuous nature of youth. He's balancing this car, looking for his moment. And Andrei Lewandowski, they've caught him, but now they've got to find how to get past. One little slip up from Testa, and Marzio Moretti will pounce. Testa knows that. He's left the door slightly open, and Moretti, well, didn't need a second invitation, but the trouble there for Testa, he's been quite cautious. Now they've both run off the circuit. What do you get when you go off the circuit? You may pick up tyre damage. Always a worry, but well, there we go. Something you've got to learn as you're racing. Rodrigo Testa will be sucking this up. He's clearly very, very quick individual, the young Portuguese racer.
And also by losing a position there, he's now gaining a massive slipstream from Moretti all the way down the 2 parts of the Mistral Straight. A little bit of defensive work from Moretti, just turned in a fraction earlier than you would usually expect, conscious that Testa is behind him, but these two don't need to be squabbling. They are both faster than Lewandowski ahead, and that really should be the focus at the moment. Moretti flashing those lights to let Lewandowski know where they are, turns into Senior. The rear end just wiggles a little bit. That'll unsettle them. They have to run wide to gather up the car, and now this double apex right-hander at Beausset always offers an opportunity at the 2nd apex, and lovely work by Moretti up to the lead of the race, just holds that tighter line. And look at that, Testa is still behind Lewandowski, and now even more critical to clear him because his rival is checking out at the front.
Yeah, normally in that situation, the driver in 3rd place gets a chance to dive by at the same time, but Lewandowski in the twisty final sector of the circuit had to put his car somewhere, so he's still got the 17-year-old Portuguese driver behind him. And diving into the last corner of the circuit, yeah, the move was coming. He absolutely had to get it done because otherwise the new race leader, Marzio Moretti, would be pulling clear. He's probably lost about a second in that little scrap down there. Lewandowski, well, he's still the leading runner in Pro-Am. He's 3rd overall, so it's not going to be outright victory. But on the grid, he said, outright victory would be lovely, but what I want are the maximum points in the Pro-Am class. So he should be heading for those, because the next car in class is Frederick Sandorf down in 10th position in the number 81 target car that he's sharing with Alex Howe. And the Dane will be coming forward, but I don't think he'll be able, with what, 10, 11 minutes remaining in this race, to close the gap.
Well, the gap is 10 seconds, and Sandorf has done a 2:05 on that last lap. Lewandowski, okay, was squabbling with other cars, but did a 2:09. So actually very possible to close that gap quite quickly. Lewandowski, I would imagine, can go faster. Now he's got 2 pro drivers ahead. He can learn from them, follow them, and certainly can do better than a 2:09. But even Testa and Moretti did 2:08s and 2:07s. They were really compromised on that last lap.
Yeah, looking at the runners in class, Eduardo Liberati going well in the Pro-Am class, but he's down in, he's just gained a position, gone past Bronick Formaniec. Italian racer moving up to 13th overall, which put in I think, let's see, that's moved him up to 4th in class. That's car number 71 from the stable of Brutal Fish.
So the 66 car that was right at the head of the field with Karel Bash really lost a lot of time through that pit stop phase, coming out of the pits in 13th position and now losing more time. Okay, we've got the AM driver in the Pro-Am entry there, but ultimately, it was when everything shook out, he was already in that position. It's not like he's lost all those positions through this second half of the race.
Now second in the Pro-Am class, looking at him here large on your screens. Alex Al started the race, but Fredrik Schandorf, the Flying Dane, is really doing exactly what it says on the tin. He's running in 10th place overall. His next target is Matteo Michelotto. They're not fighting, they're fighting position on the track, but Michelotto is not in the Pro-Am competition. He's in a Pro lineup, but they're going to all catch the cars up in front of them and see how they can haul them in and put them behind them.
Schandorf is on a real mission, isn't he? Really laying it all on the line. It's quite a queue of cars for Schandorf to get past. Michelotto is the next driver ahead of him in the 6. There's Cabarrou, there's Dan, there's Leach, all in a queue there. And actually, even Bonduelle and Sudstrom.
Just taking a look at the car that's running second in the AM class. That's car number 2, which is in the hands of Pierre Filioni. But now the 21, yesterday, race victory plucked away. Unfortunate collision taking out Gabriel Rindon. But today he's doing exactly what he was doing yesterday. And hopefully this time can get to the finish in the lead of the AM class. So pressing on very well indeed. In 22nd position overall. And now we have a spinner. Car number 99 has got it wrong at the final corner. Patrick Matheson, one of the many Danes in this race, and luckily for him, it's not the opening lap of the race. Doesn't have to wait for everybody else to come past before he rejoins. Looks to see the signalling from the marshals. They've got the clear line of sight that he wouldn't have, having spun out of Virage Dupont. He gets going all over again. So these drivers haven't long to go to keep their tyres sweet, but certainly the track temperature is just eking its way up again. The tyres starting to become a potential excuse for the driver. These cars, rock solid, they can last, of course, the entire race, but drivers always like a bit of an excuse to have.
Matt Pavlovich passing Manetti, the Oregon machine, and the Bonaldi. That's 25th position gained then for Pavlovich. Still plenty of progress to go as we check in with Privitello, son and father. Who's in the car at the moment?
It should be Donovan, I think. Having a quick look up at the end. It is Donovan rather than Luciano, so 30th position. And Milos Pavlovich up to 25th, so that car's gained about 23 positions. It started right at the tail of the grid. Absolutely inspired choice for the onboard camera. So a lot of overtaking will have been recorded by his camera through the course of this race.
Will Casabon carves his way past Privitello up into 30th position. And actually, there are a couple of cars following Casabon. Yuri Krebs is the next car in that class and is faster as well. So we might see a change in class positions there with 7 minutes still remaining. And another slower car.
I think it's the same one's just rejoined. Is it 99? Let's take a look on the flanks. I've just gone out of shot there, but oh yes, and another car that was featuring at the very front of the field. That's Jim Pla's car. It suggests car number 92. It was started by Michael Blanchemin, had a spin, and sometimes it takes 2 to tango. So Jim Pla hooks it up all over again, and that will drop it somewhat down the order. So unfortunate there, a spin. Jim Pla started the lap in 18th position, but would have shed quite a few of those while sitting waiting to get that car fired up all over again.
He was pointing the right direction, wasn't he? But he couldn't get the car fired up quickly.
No, for whatever reason we do not know, but can't see any damage on the flank. That's good news at least, but sometimes one car going out, sometimes you avoid someone else's moment. They might only have a twitch, but you're thinking it's going to become worse, and you dive to the side. Right at the front of the field, Marzio Moretti is leading, but let's take a look. Moretti leading by 1.8 seconds. Let's have a look at what happened to these two cars trying to join each other on a piece of track. 92 pushing its way through. That's Jim Pla for the Orba course. And there was contact. The moment at which a car suddenly has a little more dynamic force applied to it than perhaps was what the driver deemed. Oh, well, beautiful spinning in formation, but I would suggest Jim might have been given a tiny bit of a tap.
It almost looked like wheel-to-wheel contact in it, and the spin was a lot greater than the initial force.
So it seemed, and at that moment it was a reset for Jim Pla, and that will have dropped him down the order. He lost 7 places, fell from 18th down to 25th. And so it means other runners in the Pro-Am class have been promoted accordingly.
And the other car was the 75 car, the Team Kazakhstan car of Shota Abazkazev, who has jumped aboard that car, the man we spoke to on the grid. And as I say, there was almost side by side. There was no malice in either of their intentions.
Absolutely not.
But they just kind of kissed, and suddenly it was like, whoa, big spin.
Well, good news, they both recovered, both going all over again, but the clock is counting down. The clock is not their friend. Under 5 minutes remain in this race. 20 laps completed by Marzia Moretta, 2 seconds almost precisely ahead of the number 10 yellow Iron Lynx entry, just turning into turn 1 there. Andrei Lewandowski in 3rd place now and being challenged, but not quite passed by a gaggle of cars coming behind. Oliver Söderström, Amaury Bonduelle, and tucked in behind Brendan Leach and Dan Arrow as well, and in fact not a lot further back, Matteo Michelotto, so they're really going to bunch up.
Crucially, Anne Schandorf is part of that, and that's the 2nd car in that class, so really important that Lewandowski tries to stay ahead as much as possible here. Loses the rear end and turn in there, goes a bit wide. There's a lot of squabbling going on. There is Schandorf second last in the queue. But he has reduced the gap by half since we last monitored it.
Certainly have. So the battle for 3rd, I love it that when you don't look 3rd, 4th, 5th, it's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And 9th now with Fredrik Schandorf getting closer and closer. What do you like at the Mistral Straight? Slipstreaming, please. That's precisely what they're doing now. Big shame they can't run the whole way up because they've got to get the braking done for the chicane in the middle there. And a very ambitious move from Fredrik Schandorf. He's got to take a few risks and push the envelope to see if he can gain a few positions. If he can keep it neat and tidy, he can do that. But still the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing entry, number 16, heading for victory in the Pro-Am class, but it could come undone. He's got all these pros lining up behind him. The first one to challenge will be number 9, Oliver Söderström, and the slow starting but fast recovering gold car of Amaury Bonduelle also fancies a bit of the action.
Into Beausset, changes further back. That's Schandorf getting past Michelotto, I think. And it's side by side with Bonduelle and Söderström. Bonduelle to the outside, but if you do that, you're opening the door to others. Brendan Leach looking at the 2 of them side by side. None of them able to get past Lewandowski for the moment. Lewandowski sitting very much in the middle of the road here. There is Brendan Leach, barely a car's length. Well, half a car's length between the 2 of them, and Lewandowski again goes defensive. Oh, he's pitched around by Söderström, and here come the rest of the field past them. Can't predict what it's going to be when they get to the line, but an unfortunate little bit of contact between the 2 of them there, and that's going to completely change 3rd position. Who's come out of it? Brendan Leach in 3rd.
Well, he finished 3rd yesterday, and today here he was a moment ago. He's sitting down in about 7th position. Lewandowski somehow managed to keep his car from spinning entirely. If he'd gone right across the track at the final corner, there'd be nowhere to go but being pushed and shoved by Olivier Söderström. Real pressure happening there. However, for Lewandowski, he still is leading the Pro-Am class.
Somehow.
He's come back. He could have been off the circuit there, but he's kept it pointing straight, and now he's got more drivers challenging him down to Virage du Camp, going to the bottom of the hill to Virage de la Saint-Baume, and I feel this race has plenty more action for the real sting in the tail here.
And crazily, actually, Schandorf has dropped into 4th position in class. I think he may have had a mistake, because Schandorf now 13th overall, behind Liberati in class, behind Zonzini in class. So did he get caught up in that accident? Yeah, look at a 2:13.
Well, it's hardly surprising someone would have lost out in that. The 7 cars going for 1 position through the final corner. Lewandowski was at the back of that pack in 9th position overall, 3rd back to 9th. It was very, very close. And then with Lewandowski being put sideways, Olivier Söderström going sideways, cars had to take evasive action. One went very, very wide out of the final corner, got onto the start-finish straight. But Amaury Bonduelle now ahead of Olivier Söderström et al. Lewandowski behind, Aradan, Michelotto and Cabarrou joining the fun as well. That's car number 27.
We've got to look out for the 78 in the middle of this pack, because that is Zonzini trying to find a way past Lewandowski for the lead in class, mixed in with a load of pros. Side by side, around the outside goes Arrow Dan on Ollie Söderström. He'll have the inside line for the next bend and gets it done actually before he even gets to the final 2 corners. So nice work there. Side by side further back as well. I don't think that's Lewandowski in that white car. Is this a back marker? Yes, it is. In the mix of things as well, just to make things a little bit more complicated.
Well, racing on a circuit the drivers love. It does provide the chances to overtake, but also the chances to get it slightly wrong. If there's half a chance, a driver is always going to try. But look, we're going on to the final lap of the race. Marzia Moretti leading by 2.3 seconds from 17-year-old Rodrigo Testa. Brendan Leach was the recipient
winner, yeah.
all that pushing and shoving, well, a small bit of pushing and shoving, but the sorting out at the final corner 2 laps ago. He's in 3rd place. Amaury Bonduelle is now fighting back. Matthias Michelotto going forward. Dan Arrow in 6th place. Oliver Soderstrom has lost a fair bit of ground in all that sorting out.
10-second time penalty to car 9, causing a collision.
Okay, so Olivier Soderstrom, he is deemed to have caused that collision with Andrei Lewandowski. Lewandowski's now fallen back to 3rd in the Pro-Am class, and number 9 will get a time penalty, and that will drop him down out of the top 10.
And he kind of gets out the way of Zonzini there. I think he's got a bit of something going on. Perhaps a puncture, and that smoke is the car bottoming out at the back of the car. But Soderstrom dropping out of this battle now. Zonzini now leads the Pro-Am category. Schandorf up to 2nd, and Lewandowski 3rd position. That Lewandowski fighting back, I think it is, because Liberati's got past him in the 71 car. So Liberati's now up to 3rd in this lap. And that white machine at the back of shot is Lewandowski, but now he's outside of the podium. Well, that was
Had it
crazy.
not been for that push, I really feel for Lewandowski. He might have lost a few positions. We're on the final lap of the race. He's got no chance to make it up back on the track. So Maurizio Moretti must be heading for victory outright. He's got a 2.3-second advantage over Rodrigo Testa. Car 61, there it is, the race leader for Oregon team. And he's literally got 1 corner to go. Now he turns into the final corner. No one close enough to challenge him. So a great run for them yesterday to 2nd place. And he and Sebastian Balthazar will be delighted. They've improved on that victory here in the 2nd race at Paul Ricard.
Testa comes over the line to take the flag in 2nd. Brendan Leach has got a bit of a gap for 3rd, but who's going to be 4th and who's going to win the Pro-Am category? Because they're all in the mix of this bunch who've been constantly changing over the last couple of laps. And we wait to see which of it. I think it's going to be Zonzini in the 78 manages to win the Pro-Am category. Schandorf 2nd, Liberati in 3rd. And just a reminder that that's the Iron Lynx 78 car of Zonzini and Colombini, who didn't really feature that much in the first part of the race. But what an entertaining second half. And Schandorf, who we predicted would be right up there, having 1 lap where he lost 5 seconds and ends up in 2nd position, the car he shared with Alex Howell.
Victory in AM going to this driver of car 21. It's Gabriel Rindon. He's got 2 and a bit second advantage over the remarkable Egyptian Ibrahim Badawi. And that's victory for the 21 car. Victory in the AM class will be going to the Privitellios, father and son team, with Donovan finishing the job started by Luciano. That'll be 29th position overall, but class victory. And that's what all these drivers aim for. To see if they can achieve that, they would take that. Jürgen Krebs ought to come home, but it's very close between him and Charlie Martin. I won't call that one until they get to the finish. They're 31st and 32nd overall, 65 ahead of 54, but under half a second between them at the start of the final lap. But certainly victory in the Lamborghini Cup class goes to number 8 of Donovan Privitello. So another Iron Lynx success in all forms of cars with roofs.
And that means another crazy interview with Gemma as well, because he's such a character.
Isn't he just?
Checkered flag, and he picks up that victory. What about 2nd in class, though? As we said, half a second separating the 3 cars. The flag falls for the number 5, and Charlie Martin does get 2nd position in class in the 54. These shares with Jason Keats. So great work from Charlie on that last lap, and Krebs drops down to 3rd, therefore.
Well, a race full of incident and surprise, but some really great races, some great scrapping. And this circuit, Paul Ricard, really does provide the drivers a chance to see what they can do, but it makes it feel wider than it is with the bank so far back. But the drivers know you get on those lines on the outside of the circuit, exceed the track limits, and you'll pick up penalties. Some have done that, but no penalties for Maurizio Moretti for the Oregon team. 2nd place yesterday with Sebastian Balthazar, and it's a pro lineup, so you expect it to be at the front, but they came out ahead of it. All the other pro lineups, so plenty of delight for the Oregon team. A great race. Let's take a look at the results. The second of the 2 races in this, the opening round here at Circuit Paul Ricard. At the end, 2.7 seconds was the margin of victory for Sebastian Balthazar, who started, and Maurizio Moretti, who brought it to the finish, ahead of Ugo de Wilde, who started, and the 17-year-old Rodrigo Testa. Look out for him. Great run for them to 2nd place. Brendan Leach, 3rd place yesterday. Excellent result. Enjoyed it so much he's done it all over again, going solo here on the Sunday. Another solo driver, Amaury Bonduelle, will be ruining his poor start. Started 2nd, worked his way back up up to 4th. Matteo Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbutter, great run from Michelotto because he's come up from the middle order to take 5th place. And Abby Eaton and Dan Arrow will be absolutely loving their debut in the championship here as a combination. 6th place for them, that will be very, very pleasing indeed. Stefan Trebudini, Loris Cabarrus sharing 7th place. And then eventually with that sort out, Alex Au and Frederick Schandorf, who brought it home, winning their class. Because we have a change of position because, of course,
Penalty.
78, Zonzini has picked up a penalty. I wrote it down in the notes, so it goes to prove that penalties, they can't always apply them quite fast enough, but a late change there, so one will have to change. Let's go down at the other class winners because Gabriel Rindon, car number 21, winning his class in 18th position overall. And then the winner of the Lamborghini Cup class, as we said at the end, Donovan Privitello, sharing with Luciano, down in 29th position overall, just behind Antonio Vossos. And a great race, really thoroughly enjoyable, a little bit of sorting out, but Gemma has caught up very, very quickly with the crew of Car 61. They took victory today. They're with Gemma.
Guys, that was absolutely brilliant, and it all came into show in the final part of the race. But talk us through your stint there, Sebastian.
Yeah, quite good start. So I could manage to stay on P3. Then I had a look for the tires. It was a kind of pressure, but you had also a really good strategy from the team. And generally the pace was really good, mine and Masters. So we managed to keep the position and then to go for the 1st place.
And that was quite a takeover. That battle for first at that certain area of the track was incredible.
Yeah, it was great fun racing here in Paul Ricard. I've got to thank the team Oregon and my teammate Sebastian. They gave me a great car with still a lot of tire left, so I could use it to my best and get the lead with both of it takes. So yeah, it's been a great race. Good job to everyone, the team and my teammate especially. Great start back there.
You did
Congratulations,
also well job,
lads. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice words. You can see the pleasure of the combined success. It's been a really strong opening weekend. 2nd yesterday and victory today for Oregon team for Sebastian Baltazar and Marzia Moretti. No wonder, smiles all round.
And so important that overtake. The Moretti was decisive with it and was clean with it and took advantage of Testa just spending a bit too long, really, trying to get past Lewandowski. Moretti got there, did it, cleared off, and didn't really give Riccardo Testa any chance to counter it once they were clear of the slightly slower car. Moretti, Testa, and Brendan Leach was also a man that just took advantage of that chaos at the final turn. I think he was 6th going into the turn, came out in 3rd, and then because they were still trying to sort each other out, ended up with a nice, comfortable advantage. Let's get down to the eventual winners of the Pro-Am category. Frederick Schandorf managed to finally get it done.
Frederick, Alex, a fantastic result, a class win. How tough was that?
It was not easy. It was like a race from start to finish, and Alex did an amazing job in the first stint to keep up with the pro guys. So I'm really happy about his performance. And in the end, it's just all about survival with this crazy race. So it was really good fun to battling with all the other guys. So that was really good fun.
There doesn't seem to be much in it between the pro guys and the AM guys, right?
No. You can see the pro train overtaking Lewandowski at the end.
Yeah.
It was that was what I was facing yesterday. So I'm glad that the situation is reversed today. Yeah. So we got a bit of luck, so it's really good.
Well, congratulations, a great result. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, what was the penalty for Zonzini? Was it collision or was it
well, I'm still waiting to work that one out. Having so many drivers to look at, car 78 looking for the warnings on the screen, but we can tell you, of course, we had the penalty issued just before the end of the race to Oliver Soderstrom, and that drops him down from that battle for 3rd place to 16th overall. 10-second penalty added to his time, so very frustrating, but that's the rules, and you have to abide by them. Causing contact with Andrei Lewandowski, and with all that sorting out, Lewandowski just missed out on Pro-Am podium by 0.11 of a second.
Oh.
So much happened, but let's take a look at how the race began. A brilliant start from pole position by Loris Spinelli, and a poor start by Amaury Bonduelle. He was 2nd going down towards turn 1, but there was no stopping Hugo de Wilde, who went down the inside for Iron Lynx and took 2nd place. And some of the cars attacking from the back. Michael Blanchemin says Mika was his racing name there, riding on board with him, and all the sort of badness down through turns 1 and 2. It sorts itself out a little bit by turn 4 as they go down the slope, and then Dougie Volger discovering that just a little bit of a loss of traction out of turn 2, and he had to wait for everybody to come past. Lost about 35 positions with that one rotation. And then, of course, we got to the point where the pit stops had to be made, and Loris Spinelli handed over from the lead to Andrei Lewandowski, and he was being hunted. But it's a Pro-Am pairing. Expect him to be chased, and he most certainly was. The Oregon car, number 61, chasing with Marzio Moretti, pushing very hard indeed. And Rodrigo Testa, the 17-year-old Portuguese driver, also looking to find his moment to get past Lewandowski to take the outright lead. Then spinning in formation, Shotav Kozala and Jim Pla, they gathered it all up again, but a little frustration for the pair of them. And then it was all bubbling up. We had Lewandowski holding off a whole train of cars, and it got very, very busy. Third place to ninth, you could have covered them with a blanket. And the four classes all going for their outright class wins, but at the end of the race, it was Marzio Moretti in the Oregon team, car number 61, who brought it home, building on the great work by Sebastian Baltazar. 2 races here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Do join us for the others in the future. It's been a fantastic start to the season. Okay, let's go to the points and those great results. Second and first, resulting in a championship lead for Michelotto. That was Michelotto and Stadsbatter after yesterday's race with the points for 15 points for a win. Marzio Moretti and Sebastian Baltazar started today in second points. The points have been added. They should now have a trophy tally of 27 points after the first 2 races here. But it goes to prove, you could just see in the battle there, Ben, how so close, one little slip up, possibly someone else's slip up, and your race could be really, really affected. But it's about knitting it together, all the races combined across the championship, scoring a good average.
Next round of the championship is Spa-Francorchamps, so they'll be joining us once again for the 24-hour crowd strike 24 hours. Remember, that is the start of July rather than the usual end of July. And that will be an absolutely fantastic place once again for these guys to explore and enjoy. Brendan Leach on the left-hand side talking to Hugo de Wilde, and Hugo obviously doing the first stint, but they would have raced together in the first stint because Brendan was in the car for the full race. And then we'll also see these guys at the Nürburgring supporting the Endurance Cup before they then visit the Sprint Cup for SRO, and then they have their own World Finals this year in Italy, in Vallelunga. In previous years it's been across the world because, of course, there is an Asian and an American championship of this Super Trofeo.
Well, Brendan Leach certainly knows his way to the podium. Third place yesterday, driving solo. Same recipe for today. Second place up on the podium, drivers of car number 10, Rodrigo Testa and Hugo de Wilde. We'll hear a lot more from the pair of them, but the drivers with the biggest smiles. Car number 61 from Oregon team, Sebastian Baltazar and Marzio Moretti, winning the second race here and taking the championship lead at Circuit Paul Ricard. To come out on top of a 48 car field must be a very special feeling. So the Marseillaise ringing out for the Oregon team, a French team winning on home ground. This is the overall podium. We will have other podiums to follow. And the trophy is presented by Stefan Winkelmann, Lamborghini chairman and CEO of Automobili Lamborghini. And he must be just reveling in the way the Super Trofeo is growing like Topsy all around the world. But here in Europe, to have just short of 50 cars, what a start to the season.
I suppose there's also the possibility, considering they were supposed to start in Imola, that there's another round being added to the calendar at some point. The championship should have been in Imola a few weeks before Formula One were supposed to be there as well. Got cancelled due to ongoing works at the circuit. Unrelated, of course, to the floods that then stopped the Formula One from going there. But it does mean that this was the first weekend in June for Lamborghini, and they have thoroughly enjoyed it. They've behaved so well as well. We hardly had any incident and very few safety car laps and so much good racing.
So that's the first of the podium ceremonies. We've still got podium ceremonies to come in Pro-Am and Am and Lamborghini Cup, so 4 classes overall. And at the end of 2 races, the opening 2 races of the 2023 season, by dint of scoring second in the first race and victory in the second. There we have it, 27 points, 12 points yesterday, 15 points today. That's the sort of form you need to win these championships. Consistency and speed. Marzio Moretti and Sebastian Balthazar smiles around Mattia Michelotto, and yesterday's winners Gilles Stansbader not too far behind and 6 points down, and a further point back in 3rd place overall. Brendan Leach does it all on his own. They're sitting pretty, but I think we're going to have to watch Rodrigo Testa and Udo de Wilde. Young combination. They're 4th in the championship, and I think they're only going to work their way forward. Amaury Bonduelle, if he can hit another good result, he'll be right up at the sharp end of the field all over again. So that's it from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe from its opening round at Circuit Paul Ricard. Join us next time out in the championship at Spa-Francorchamps.